Here we go again. History seems to be repeating itself, but always in a different cycle. It doesn't exactly go the same way, but there's still a little bit of a cycle being repeated here. Almost 20 years. On January 6th, 2021, there was a Senate session to be scheduled where Vice President Pence is to come in there. It's mostly a symbolic ceremony, a procedure that basically officialize the president elect by confirming the Electoral College. Several members of the Senate, the oppositions, those tied to Donald Trump, wanted to express their opposition and to do what they can to basically undermine this process. I guess you could say technically that is their democratic right if they want to do that, but it's just kind of, the election's been called for. Joe Biden won. End of story. I don't believe Joe Biden profoundly cheated any more than Donald Trump cheated. Any cheating that went on in this election is your basic run-of-the-mill cheating that's done by both political parties. And I acknowledge both political parties cheat. That's what they do. Nothing new under the sun about that. Not a damn thing. If you want to talk about a stolen election, let's go back to the year 2000 down in Florida. Granted, I wasn't crazy about Al Gore, but look what took place from January 2001 to January 2009. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, this is a procedure that's done, and it's mostly ceremonial. Even if Mike Pence wouldn't have showed up to make it official, no matter how you slice it and dice it, on January 20th, Joe Biden, whether you like it or not, I voted third party. I had no dog in this fight because I did not like Donald Trump and I did not like Joe Biden. But no matter how much you slice it or dice it, Joe Biden will be our next president. All the Trump supporters, they're pissed off about this election. Let me tell you this. There's always going to be another election. And it's so funny that those on the right that talk about, the Democrats they don't want to lose control. They're just in there to get elected and stay in there. What the fuck is that going on with the Trump supporters? But let me digress and let me go on. There was a Stop the Steal rally on that day. Now, as I said, I disagree that Donald Trump was profoundly cheated out. He was cheated, but so was Joe Biden cheated against. They both sides cheated against each other. But I didn't have a problem with the idea of having a Stop the Steal rally. That's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. If they really do feel like he was cheated, they have their right to be there to have that rally in that regard. What they did not have a right to do was to literally go into the chambers of Congress to try to take over the country. If they were trying to take over the country, it was the most botched up effort I've ever seen. But as I said, you can have a debate whether Trump felt cheated or not. There's always going to be another election. And what's problematic about this, that from now on, when anybody loses an election anywhere, you're going to have people always screaming, I was cheated! I was cheated! I was cheated! Nothing new under the sun. It happens. Listen, I know about having candidates being cheated. I supported a candidate in 2016 and 2020 that was cheated. I supported Bernie Sanders. Inside the Democratic Party, they did cheat him out of the nomination twice. And there's been cheating on Republican sides. They do everything they can to do down in the South to suppress the black votes. Whether they do it out of genuine racism or they do it out of political survival, and it's not really nothing personal, they just want to politically survive, they cheat too. They all keep for whatever reasons. But anyway, these Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. They stormed the Capitol. I mean, I look back and I mean, I'm like kind of disturbed, and at the same time, it's humorous because it's so it's so comical how it was done. Ugh. But the blame game and the selective outrage continues. Some of the more partisan hacks out there, your Rush Limbaugh's, for example, claimed that it was Antifa people dressed up as Trump supporters. I don't buy it. When you had a QAnon shaman guy dressed up as a fucking Viking over there inside that chamber. And we all know that guy is not Antifa or with Black Lives Matter. He's actually an Alex Jones sycophant. So, I mean, and I just found out recently that even Alex Jones wants to kind of pull away from QAnon. When you're too fucking crazy for for Alex Jones, that tells you something. But anyway, let's put the shoe on the other foot. What if Biden had lost the election instead of Trump? And there would have been people whining and screaming about it the way that some of the Trump supporters are right now. They would be doing the same thing. But what would happen? Okay, this is what would happen. They would have probably had a Stop the Steal rally too. And what would have happened is that maybe some people would have gotten a little bit too noisy in the crowd. And that the police and the military would have saw people dressed up as Black Lives Matter and Antifa and other leftists, and they would have been waiting for a chance to not just gently put handcuffs on them or tell them, slap on the wrist, stop that, stop that, stop that. What would have happened? They would have been run over with the police vehicles. They would have been shot down, sprayed with tear gas, and there would have been mass arrests going on. And Washington D.C. would be declared under martial law and all of that. It's going to that would happen. Compare that to what happened with the pro-Trump people. The police sat there taking selfies, taking like, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" and giving each other high fives. Now, and that's troubling. I mean, it's troubling about the double standards. And now, I'm not saying that I want even those right-wing protesters shot at and tear gas, but I don't want them to go overthrow the government either. And they were clearly in the wrong, no matter how you slice it or dice it. I don't want anybody trying to overthrow anybody. But the troubling aftermath is what I'm concerned about. 20 years ago, which seems like yesterday to me, I was in my early 30s back then. Instead of the gray hair I have now, it was more like a black and white salt and pepper look. But I actually have more hair now than I did back then. But getting back to what I was saying, 9/11 happens. It's a tragedy that that crosses all political lines. It's a tragedy that we all agree was terrible. It was terrible, and I have my own reasons how 9/11 could have been prevented. No, it wasn't an inside job, but it was the stupidity of the 1980s when Reagan backed these rebels in Afghanistan, not knowing or fully that these rebels could end up, attacking us later on. And I've talked about that before, and I'll probably talk about it again later on. But getting back to what I was saying, what was our response? We invaded the wrong country. We ended up going into Iraq, and there's really not a country that invaded us. It was Al Qaeda, and they were. Yeah, I know the Taliban were housing them, but here's the thing right there. The United States respond to it in the most botched up way with their Bush-Cheney policy and the foreign policy doctrine. And we ended up invading. We ended up torturing people. We ended up doing everything that you could do wrong, pissing off a lot of the international community, and actually making the world fucking less safe. And then we add fuel to the fire domestically by instituting the Patriot Act. And at first, the Patriot Act has supporters and opponents among on partisan lines. Most grassroots Democrats, not necessarily leadership, were generally opposed. Pretty much all Republicans pretty much supported the Patriot Act. But what things started to change, and some of the conservatives that later realized the Iraq War was wrong, some of them started coming around and thinking, well, maybe the Patriot Act was not the best way to go about it. Now, when it comes to the camps of conservatism, um, I would say I'll give credit to the libertarians from day one. In the early days, they joined the left thinking that the Patriot Act was bullshit. And so they were the consistent ones. They were the ones that was always consistent. And I mean, while I disagree with plenty when it comes to libertarians, I disagree plenty with them. But on some crucial matters, they're very reliable allies to the left. And I don't have a problem with making common cause with libertarians at times. The other camp were paleocons, and the paleoconservatives. Well, they were generally supportive of the George W. Bush presidency initially because, hey, they just got rid of that Bill Clinton, and they were going to support Republicans president no matter what. But it got to a point that even some of the paleocons were like, this Patriot Act and the war in Iraq was wrong. So they kind of joined up with the libertarians and the left. The people that were main problem were the neoconservatives. The neoconservatives favored the Patriot Act. Then they favor it now. And they favor the Iraq War. Then they favor the Iraq War now. And these are your Sean Hannitys, these are your Rush Limbaughs, these are your Mark Levin types, your Ben Shapiro's, even though he was kind of young back then. Still, these are the people who remain consistently wrong about shit. Anyway, getting back to the insurrectionists that from a week ago. While they broke the law, and I originally got knee jerk and say, hey, these fucking assholes were a bunch of terrorists, and I am a little bit reluctant to say terrorism for this reason, and somebody called this out, and I'll tell you why. Because right now there's calls for a new Patriot Act, and here's the problem: we will become more of a garrison surveillance state as a result. And yeah, while these assholes are what they are, I mean, they obviously would not have been able to get away with taking over the U.S. government because their ignorant asses just occupied the U.S. Senate building. Please give me a break. You think that the military and you think that the law enforcement and you think that the power structure are going to sit there and start taking orders from this rough collection of rebel rouser hee-haw rednecks? Really? No. That would have happened. And they would not even have obeyed Donald Trump. I'm talking about the military, the police, and the power structure of this country. They wouldn't have. And so, as bad as they are, they have their guidelines that they have to follow by. But here it is, my warning to the left: please be careful about calls for for surveillance measures as anti-civil liberties and anti-privacy. Just because Joe Biden is the president-elect does not mean you have to go and sit there and rubber stamp what he does. Because let me tell you, when just as there, when with this call for censorship or call for surveillance legislation or what have you, it ends up biting the left in the ass. It doesn't, more than people think. Just because the enemy of my enemy is not necessarily my friend. Donald Trump is my enemy. He was my enemy all for the last 4 years, and he's going to be my enemy until he is officially gone from the White House on January 20th. Joe Biden will be my enemy when he's sworn in as president, because he is basically a moderate Republican, like Kyle Klinsky says on his show. And here's the thing: the enemy of my enemy is not my friend. And I don't care where you are on the political spectrum, if you don't want a government spying on you and turning this country into a garrison state, a surveillance state, if you don't want to see us become 1984 by George Orwell, you will just kind of consider, should we be too quick to start having legislations like another Patriot Act or Patriot Act II? I think if you are consistent in supporting individual rights in a civil society and you want to be a democracy, you need to think about these things. No matter if you're a liberal, no matter if you're a conservative, you're a libertarian, a green, or what have you. I mean, no matter where you stand on the political spectrum between the left and the right, if you adhere to the concept of a free society, you will have to consider what it means with legislation relating to another Patriot Act like um, law coming into being. Anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you were absolutely just outraged and snowflaking over my words, comment anyway. Uh, Feel free to share the contents on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you're passionate about something and you have a platform, utilize it. If you don't have a platform, but you're passionate about something, utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. And most importantly, feel free to comment on this channel. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy, Peace, and Bernie Sanders for president in 2024. Typing something here. Peace.